in a previous video we've learned how to put the Aussie jig together to do dowel holes, and today we're actually going to be making a frame and panel. When you put your face marks and edge marks on the timber, it's also good to lay your timber out as it's going to end up, and what you do there is as many marks as you can put on the timber, the less chance you'll have of making any mistakes. So what you do is you mark across each joint. So it doesn't matter what you mark it with, right? I just use strakes, and see those corresponding marks will fit there. See, they fit up there on the 2, 3 and 4. You can see I've test drilled the first set of holes, and if you notice they line up pretty well. Okay, I did that by placing this rail on this side, keeping that edge mark, which you can barely see, and the face mark and the edge mark into the jig and down onto the jig. Right, picked that one up, and I did the same thing into the spacer, edge mark into the stop mark, into the stop. Right, just turn it upside down, put it in the vise and drill it. Okay, so we'll just go forward. Okay, to do the other end of this, you flip it end from end so that the face mark and the edge mark are facing into the spacer and into the stop. So that one goes there. I have, before I started, marked all the faces and the edge marks, and also where I need to drill into the timber and the corresponding marks on the end of the stiles. Right, so that goes face mark into the spacer, edge mark down into the jig. And drill the holes. Okay, so when you're drilling the holes, the number of holes that you put in each piece is determined by the width of the stock. Okay, I can only fit 2 holes into the end grain of the stile, so you need to drill 2 corresponding holes in the rail. Alright, so just drill it. Righto, that completes that set of holes. So I've got the next 2 pieces in the jig, and yeah, all I've got to do now is drill it. Alright, so bring it over here. It's always good to remember too that when you're drilling you need to clear your bit, otherwise you want on the bit. You do that just by lifting it out of the hole. One thing I did forget to mention before we started is that you drill the holes to the depth of half the dowel that you're using. That's 16mm, that's 32mm long, so that's 16. plus the depth of your jig, which is 15 mil. Now that's 31 mil. Now because the dowels aren't necessarily always the same length, you could run into a problem with ill fitment once you go to fit it all together. So just to make absolutely certain, give yourself an extra mil when you drill the hole. So you need to cut it at 32 mils or 33 mils just to give you that little bit of extra room. When you put it together, it doesn't matter if the dowel doesn't hit home. Basically all the dowel's there for in the first place is to locate your rails and your stiles together. And to get the right depth for when you want to drill, what I've done is simply got a piece of dowel, drilled a hole through the middle, and I've cut the dowel to length, leaving enough distance between the bottom of the dowel and the tip of the drill to drill the hole the required depth. Right, you put a little O-ring in there to stop it from moving, and Bob's your uncle. Righto, that's all the holes drilled in all the pieces. The next step is just to clean out the holes so that the dowels go in nice and easy, and you just put a countersink on all the holes. On all. Right, the next step is to dry fit the frame to see whether you've done the right thing, and normally you'd use the fluted dowels to allow glue to penetrate the whole joint, but the problem with that is that the dowels aren't all regulation size and they might fit tightly in the hole. Well, one way you can get over that is by getting a piece of timber and on hardwood just roll it, and what that does is it compresses the flutes and makes the dowel a little bit smaller. So if you do that to all the pieces you're going to use, you'll find that the dowel will be easy enough to get in and out of the joint if you've got to make any adjustments. Alright, if they're still a little bit tight, what you can do when you go to glue it up is, before you actually make the corresponding pieces, is if you've got a junior coping saw or a small hacksaw, you can cut down the middle of the dowel, and what happens is when you put the corresponding dowel hole over the top of the dowel, it presses the dowel in and makes it a bit easier. So that's just another way you can get around it being a really tight fit. So it's better to be safe and just take these few measures, few tricks first, and yeah, save you a lot of time and hassle in the long run. Right, now that the holes are all drilled and I've flattened out the dowels a little bit, it's time to dry fit it. Start with your lower rail, grab the stile, just tap it down. Alright. Tap it down. And there's your frame completed as far as that's concerned. All the marks line up, they're all in the right place, everything's nice and flush, and the shoulders of each piece sit nice and tightly together. The next step is actually to route a groove in the middle of each piece for the panel to fit into. That's done on the router table.